So yes, welcome to Accountants on Chain at Digital Playhouse, and I'm Electra Frost, and I'm joined today by Jakub from AEM Algorithm. So we're here today to have a look at AEM Algorithm, which is a specialist software for crypto bookkeeping and accounting, because as more businesses are using crypto for the first time, we're faced with this problem of the shoebox of receipts in blockchain. So although we've got most businesses onto cloud accounting, you can't just get data, crypto data for a business from the blockchain into Xero. There's no API connection for that. You need specialist tooling and you need specialist knowledge. So today you'll familiarise yourself with the digital landscape as Jakub gives us a brief summary of how blockchain technology is transforming the accounting industry, and he'll share some of his insights from his many years of experience as an accountant and as a founder, a software founder, CEO of AEM Algorithm, which he'll tell us about. So with the first-hand experience under his wing, he'll uncover the best bookkeeping practices that will help guide us in dealing with crypto and with clients using it in their businesses for the first time. So, and who may already be using it and have a bit of a shoebox. So just first up, before we get into it, a bit about Digital Playhouse Foundation. So look, the reason why we exist is to help improve digital skills and financial literacy in regional Australia, where there is a greater risk of, there are more people at risk of falling behind. With the government's digital economy strategy for 2030, everything's going really digital, and blockchain is on that strategy as well. So it's really important that we think it's important for people to learn by doing. And so some of our projects include the School of Bitcoin, which is like a DAO, if you've heard of those, a decentralized autonomous education system. And Stacks Australia, which is an opportunity for people to learn how to start careers as developers, blockchain developers, because there's a lot of work in that field, which is going to be great for the regions. We also help with startups in regional areas and emerging technology education, career pathways. But one of our most important projects, and the reason why we resource volunteer at a centre in Queensland, an actual physical space, is because we have coding for kids classes, and we get a lot of homeschoolers come in who may not get to use, robotics and all this cool stuff at home. They don't have the equipment, but we have it. So the reason why we put these sessions on is to build my own knowledge, share it with you, build a knowledge sharing community amongst accountants, and bring exposure to really fantastic innovators like Jakub with AEM, but also because we fundraise to run this charity. So look, if you booked in quickly and didn't get a chance to donate but wanted to, I'll be sending you a link after this session with your CPD certificate. Okay, so quick disclaimer on the financial advice. We're not giving it. If I said it, I didn't say it. We're just here today to look, everything we say is general in nature. And so just about becoming more familiar and confident to be able to discuss crypto with your clients in a business context. You're still going to have to commit significant time yourself learning about crypto and doing your own research and practicing. We're just getting you started mentally for it. And look, it's great to learn on the tools. Okay, and this is the agenda that we'll be covering today. So is this what you're planning to cover, Jakub?
Yes, although I'll do a good introduction of what we do and what we're about at AEM as well, which is highlighted here. And effectively I'll just try and stay on time, because I understand we want to finish by 1:30, if that's correct.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'll make sure we got a good solid Q&A at the end, because I would like to encourage that to see where everyone's been with
so everyone write down your questions as we go through, and we'll give a lot of time to the Q&A at the end. Okay. All right. Well, here's just a map of what Journaler is, but I'll hand it over to you now.
Great.
You want to
Okay.
explain this diagram or just jump into it, Jack?
I can. So I do know I have my separate deck as well. So I might do a little bit of a talk through this, and then later on we can move to some of the other content. So you know, hi everyone. First of all, thank you for the time. I'm going to share screen quickly. I'll try and do full screen just to make it easier. I do full screen. Yeah. And that diagram was great, although we hit it. So I'll say a few things in a lot simpler way. So what is AEM Journaler? It's really a bridge between Xero and the transactions that happen on blockchain. And who am I myself? I founded AEM back in 2018. It's been an interesting story. I'll try not to brag on too much, but we were back in the days, that was after the first of the significant crypto booms. We got selected by an organization called Blockchain Center, being an interesting project looking to build an accounting system. And I was explaining to Electra as well that we still stick to that mission. So even though we ended up commercializing a solution to export transaction data into Xero and now QuickBooks as well, there's a lot more that we want to do. So we focus heavily on doing that for businesses, and we look to expand that across even invoices and settlements and so on. Our bread and butter these days is really getting transaction data in volume into Xero. What's interesting about me, I guess, I used to be a designer. I used to be a product designer. From there, I moved into accounting. And then having worked for about a decade as a bus agent, I eventually just saw crypto, and then I saw this opportunity to make it easier for everyone. So you were
always about systems optimization when you were a bus agent working as an accountant?
Absolutely. It was solving the problem of getting the apps working right with the applications. I was back when I first started, I was using a lot of MyOb. As we know, about 10 years ago, the app integrations weren't such a big thing. And one of the biggest pains was like how to get all these spreadsheets in. And the same thing ended up happening with crypto now. And still
crypto, it's like you end up with spreadsheets that are so heavy that they crash. They're so big.
Exactly. Yeah, and this is what we're trying to solve. So just a few key challenges. Lack of automations is a big one, and exporting and importing large amounts of data. And this is what we've been doing quite well and quite successfully for everyone. The tax is something we haven't focused heavily on, but we have tax capabilities. We actually do journals for wallets, and this will be improving as we go because there's quite a few sophisticated solutions for tax. But this was secondary to the process for us. So this is why, I'm going to heavily focus on the bookkeeping side here.
And I just want to add that that's so important because as accountants, all we've been hearing about crypto pretty much from our CPD and the software we've been exposed to has all been very tax driven. But we know when it's a business, it really starts with getting the accounting right, and then you do the tax.
Well, look, and I'm going to jump straight into examples. So I'm not going to use names of other packages because it's not about that. But where I know the challenges sit, if you're using APIs, so let's say you're using an accounting package that pulls the data from Exchange into that accounting package, and let's say then you even wanted to get that into Xero. Issue is as soon as you move into bigger volumes, you are actually facing potential data gaps. So effectively, a lot of time spent by everyone in accounting space, it's double checking and reconciling, which is part of our regular practice. We used to think that if we are, on a blockchain, it will be fine. Everything's hashed, everything's there. Well, this is true, but the systems are coming up, and this is actually where AEM's coming up a lot. We're focusing heavily on just not missing anything. And once we do this at scale, this is where challenges sit. So the exchange is one, blockchain is the other, as I've shown on the example. And it comes down to being accurate because missing one transaction row obviously can have a monumental effect on your tax or your financial report. And this I've already covered, so I'll just jump through. And another interesting thing about AEM, we do build that second product. So it's still not commercialized, but it's actually available. It's free. It's a wallet app. Where that wallet app is going, it's going to it's been going through various iterations. We actually work and partner with our MIT Blockchain Hub, which we are very grateful for because they give us resources to be able to work with teams and do prototyping. And this is really how we've you know, along for many years been able to sustain our activity. So where this is heading is effectively doing better B2C side of the operations for the business, and JOURNALER sits on the B2B side, it's really going to be a complete package. But focusing on the JOURNALER itself, I'll stick with the schedule a bit, so I'll try to not read through all the points here. We'll leave this presentation available for everyone.
We had an interesting question, Jacob, that was submitted earlier.
Okay.
Someone said they wanted to hear the war stories on crypto.
Okay.
So they want to know what they're in for. So we might go straight to the cons.
So biggest accounting meltdown I've seen was a client coming in from the UK. She had 1 million transactions. She wanted to get into Xero. And she's trialed our solution doing like maybe 5 or 10 transactions. And she said, yep, it's fine. And then she took on the job and she got all this data, and like it was just huge, you know. Like, first of all, she didn't come to us ahead of time, and then we started looking into it, going like, how can we do it? How can we break it down? So, you know, fast forward to now, I just had an inquiry from someone trying to get 100,000 transactions, and I said, yep, we can do it. So, effectively, what the war story is, in short, there is a lot of data, but then that also leads on to another question. Should you really be pushing all that data into Xero, or are you only after the actual information that you need to present as a, you know, part of the balance sheet, or are you really trying to reconcile 100,000 sell transactions? I don't know, but these are the war stories that can happen, because you need to know ahead of time what you're doing, so you don't end up with this huge, massive reconciliation that, well, yes, we'll get the data through for you, but were you prepared for it? Were you actually ready to set up your accounts? And the sort of follow-up story from this as well is, biggest challenges are always on the Xero side, or as soon I'm going to kind of learn more about QuickBooks that we integrated with just recently. This is the side where you really have to wrap your head around of what you're trying to reconcile, and how, if you're setting up accounts, where the data's going, because that's tricky. And I guess going on to the pros and cons, if I do a bit of a monologue here, that's your opportunity. I mean, if you're well prepared, obviously client is going to need you. They're going to need your support. But the cons, well, you're dealing with a lot of intricacies, and you have to know what those transactions are, what's their purpose. So yeah, that's the long story to that question. Okay, Alexa, I'll go to the next one then.
Yeah, so can we send these slides through later?
Of course, yeah, please share it. This is not confidential in any way. I've taken a bit of time to actually highlight for everyone some fundamentals, and I purposely didn't give links, because I know that we all end up just going on Google and looking for this stuff. So I just ended up writing up a few pointers. So, you know, some definition around blockchain, what the nodes are, what's the definition of layer 1 and layer 2, and so on. And then again, what the tokens are. And one thing I didn't even end up going into here is privacy blockchains, which technically we don't really deal with business. So this is more focusing on where we've seen activity and where the users been you know, using us, and where I felt those questions and understanding of those aspects is going to be quite fundamental.
There was a question, can you please go back? Yeah, there was a question, Jacob, about from someone just wanting to learn more about Web3. Like, we're talking about Web3 companies using crypto. And so to understand Web3, they're applications that use blockchain technology and define a decentralized infrastructure. What does that mean? What exactly is Web3? Just all of this crypto blockchain in a sort of a new sort of commerce model? What is it?
Yeah, so I'm actually writing a whole paper on this, because it's going into my business plan fairly soon. So I'm happy to share some resources once I've written it. But effectively, to me, Web3 or Web3 businesses are businesses native to blockchain. And a lot of times, to relate to a pattern that I've seen, it will be a company that wants to provide a solution, let's say a digital asset that solves a problem. It might feature a decentralized exchange with it. and from there it just continues. To me, also, there's an interesting aspect around Web 2 and Web 3, because really there's no true Web 3. Like if you said Web 3, everything would be on blockchain and wouldn't use the internet that we now have, the Web 2. So that there often is a mesh. And we see, let's say, I've seen that quite a lot. So a business example, a music platform, they might be selling NFTs. And effectively they incorporate it as a regular business. They obviously offer something that's within the Web3 space, but there's numerous examples of that. That's why I kept that description fairly simple here, because that's a whole separate
So
topic.
we're seeing kind of Web 2 businesses with Web 3 elements coming in. Otherwise, they just start off as a crypto native, like Web 3 startup. Is that right?
Yes, correct. But what's interesting about Web3 businesses is actually the whole tax side. So this is where AEM's been quite successful in helping everyone, because quite often there might be a DAO, as you've made that example earlier on.
Centralized autonomous organization, DAO.
Yeah, or they might be operating somewhere where tax is not such an implication yet. And really to them is more about getting the data in. So I've had those conversations many times going, well, what do you want to do about tax? And they said, look, that's actually not the problem. The process is the problem for us, because we've got all these tokens out there that we create. Can we actually, can you guys help us get this data in? Because obviously we're not being tracked, and we need this for our financial reporting. So, it's just an interesting topic of where really the activity sits these days.
Yeah, people trying to do the right thing, getting their accounts in order so they can figure out how to deal with the tax.
Yeah, deal with the tax, but also, well, again, that's part of the accounting process. And that's why, me having chosen to be a bus agent years ago, the reason I did it, I really enjoyed the work around understanding profit and loss, understanding payables, receivables, and is the company actually performing? So there's a bigger challenge to solve. And this is really where AEM, sits quite firm, not just going after tax. So yeah, I've given a bit more description here of the centralized versus decentralized exchanges. I won't go into detail, but the main one is obviously centralized, have data that's not on chain. And one of the things we do at JOURNALER, I'm just checking my time just to make sure I have enough time for a demo. A lot of times you would be given the data from your client, you have to import it in, and then you are able to reconcile it. If someone's on a decentralized exchange, or perhaps just transacting on a chain as well, it's often easier to have a sneak peek into what they've done. But regardless, you still need to know what those transactions were. So a lot of time gets spent on actually just working with the client and knowing ahead of time what they try to do. And I've prepared a little bit of the new client questions. Again, I won't go into much because you'll get a copy of this, but I have found those being a very useful questions to ask ahead of time. Yeah. Because many times a support query that comes to us is actually about those fundamental things, and then you just save yourself a bit of time. There's nothing difficult about those points, but knowing what currencies they have, where are the wallets, and finding what platforms they transact in. To give you perhaps a war story or a funny example, I've had one client come in. They had clients transacting on a platform. So what they did, they set up a wallet, an account within Xero. They gave it that platform's name. And I had to work backwards and explain to them and say, hey, well, yes, that client is within the platform, but they're probably transacting with 5 or 10 different tokens. So it won't be just the press of a button that you get all your data in. You actually have to break it down.
Into the, like, for example, Ethereum tokens.
Yeah, Ethereum, USDT.
It can't just be under Ethereum.
Yeah, exactly. So commonly what you'll see, let's say, because quite a lot of business sits in that space. So let's say they're using Ethereum. You may find they are using USDT, which is a stable coin. They might be using USDC. So you actually have to distinguish between those transactions. And quite often, the purpose of the USDT account or the sub wallet, call it, the group of accounts,
which is a stable coin, USDT.
Yes, the stable coin. Yeah, the stable coin might have a different purpose than what their wallet is, because their wallet with the Ethereum transactions obviously shows you their fees, whereas the stable coin, that's where the actually the commercial transactions happen. So again, you just making sure you do the due diligence ahead of time, it will save you quite a bit of time. And I think okay, I have a little bit more, which I think is still on track. So with blockchain explorers as well, what's been handy, and it's been a great reconciliation tool. I often find accountants actually using that and falling back on the IFA scan or any other scan tool just to check your data. As I said, this is still good practice and something you need to do. So I mean, yes, all of us in the space, being AEM or anyone else, we make sure we get the data in for you. But sometimes there can be examples of transactions that may not be picked up. One example could be internal transactions. Again, these are already high level kind of concepts. So you think, you know, public blockchain will show you all public transactions. True, there are actually subcategories of transactions as well. So it doesn't hurt to check the blockchain explorers. And you know, I've given a few watch outs. There's a lot more watch outs. I mean, latest you know, change of regulation from the ATO around airdrops. I actually think it's been good, but I didn't actually highlight airdrops here. But you know, clients may be receiving additional tokens for any given reason. Also, even understanding what a wrapped token is, that's not a new concept, but it is new if you first time using blockchain. So you may see that Ethereum transaction happens on a completely different chain. What it actually means is that the transaction is that token is pegged. It's a representation of the same asset, but obviously you now cannot fetch the data from the Ethereum blockchain. You may be, you know, fetching it from Binance Smart Chain or any other place. So, you know, like I again encourage everyone to look for those points, because this conceptually, I think that's where a role of, let's say, Digital Playhouse or any other place where focuses on education is so important. A lot of times it will take you a few months to be familiar with key things that happen depending on what your client's really doing. Yes, I've shared a bit of that. So we are located in Melbourne. We've been founded in 2018. Our product's been showcased a little bit. I have given everyone a few more links as well to us, and these are kind of additional resources. I may not go into this, but I don't think I'll be sharing this, but what's interesting about AEM, and this was actually a pitch deck that I've been showing to people to say why we're good at what we do.
And the thing here, I mean, it's good for us to know all of this because our clients have different needs and we have to pick the right.
So, exactly.
Right one.
So obviously this is favorable to AEM. Electra, this is not a comparison around tax. This is a comparison around accounting and a comparison of what we're trying to achieve at AEM. So the categories are obviously price. You'll see that we are very generous with transactions at AEM. Anyone else, once you go at volume or at scale, it gets expensive. And I will tell you that just no one is as generous. We don't see that being a issue for us to keep it low. We do want to make it easy for business doing large scale transactions. Xero and QuickBooks integration, well, there's some people doing a bit in that space, except between us and you know, one other competitor doing similar things. Others being kind of in the space, they either trying to do something, but as a reconciliation tool, this is the solution. Obviously we're looking for feedback and improvements, and what I call by books, it's kind of this whole thing around we actually trying to long-term build a comprehensive system by AEM. So it's going to be, you know, an interesting package to watch, because there's a constant feedback loop with our users, and what's coming up is obviously the invoicing, billing, and the tax features are slowly improving. And finally, the wallet app, we are trying to make it so you can actually use your wallet app a bit easier within the platform, but it will take us quite some time. So I think it's a handy one to look at. And this thing I will not talk about much, but again, been around since 2018.
It's interesting to see your journey here. I mean, this is something as accountants we can appreciate dealing with startups and small businesses. It takes a lot of building in the startup years. Look what you've done.
Thank you, Alexa. Look, I will, in that case, I will say a few things quickly before I jumped into a demo, but we've really it's been a long journey almost. So really right down the center, RMIT University, I can't speak highly enough of them. What they have enabled us was to take a concept or a prototype, and I've taken a deep dive going, look, let's just do it. We've commercialized the system in 2021. We got certified by Xero at 2020. We're actually the first ones to get into the marketplace with the solution. And now, you know, we fast forward to 2022. in 2021, we commenced the work with QuickBooks, and I'm pretty excited to actually be looking to do similar things with QuickBooks in the year to come. And in detail, look, there's quite a bit on this, but perhaps going fast forward, what we're going to do more will be more exchange integrations. We actually believe we can really, raise capital and accelerate because there's a good potential. We've been servicing clients for over 12 months now. There's not a massive group, but there's really a good group, and we know there's a lot of businesses where I can tell that often, back to the topic of why we're all here. If you, as an accountant, are going to improve your blockchain knowledge and skills, there's a whole market out there to be captured. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to give the system to all of you so you can actually.
And on that topic, I mean, it's been estimated 1 in 5 Australians have used crypto. And, with the launch of, more sort of merchant facilities with large chains of service stations and
Yep.
convenience stores now using it in business, more small businesses will start using it. Look, I learned myself by buying crypto in my business, and I've always been a guinea pig with my own business. To learn this, then that is one way, so that I was prepared for dealing with clients, because even though we're only mostly seeing clients as investors in crypto or traders, this business side is growing.
Absolutely. And look, this is, I can't unfortunately show my business plan, but what we've analyzed, and it's been true to how we've been growing, we've dealt a lot with Web3, which are startups, but the retail segment's coming through quite a lot. And I like the retail segment because it's also this kind of simple accounting. Think of it this way, like once the systems can do what you want, you set them up right. These are more settlements than anything at volume. Yes, there's the intricacies of this, having those advanced, DAO clients, Web3 clients. Maybe you don't even want to deal with them, but it's just going to happen because more and more people have crypto. The barrier is just being the accountant who can help the business then deal with it. And a few years ago, I remember how reluctant everyone was to deal with crypto just because there was a lack of systems.
But now we have no choice. If a client, we ask clients, oh, do you have any more bank fees to add to Xero? Is everything here? Now you have to ask them, oh, do you have any crypto fees we should be looking at too?
Exactly. So look, I'll quickly go into demo because I'm just, again, wary of time, and I want to make sure we have about 15 minutes left. Just want to highlight, I have shared a link with your lecture as well that you could share with everyone. So we really encourage practices to work with us. You can find this on our website if you go into resources, accounting advisors. That we also have a section with a few of, it's actually it's in this part. So you go to the top one as an accountant, and then in the advisors section, we already have a few practices that work with us. And yeah, if you want to get leads and if you feel confident with what you do, we'll happily list you. And also we just ask you for feedback and helping us develop, more features in line, or perhaps more automations than features at this point. So I'll go into Journaler. And for some of you there may be some of you who have looked at it before. For a while we did not have the Intuit button. Now I'm excited to announce that we have the Intuit button too. We haven't actually integrated with the marketplace, but it will be happening very soon. And then with Xero integration, I'll jump straight into it. So as a first-time user, you can actually connect with Xero. Otherwise, you obviously just create your own sign-in. It's pretty standard with any system. I just have to type in my email. This is actually the live version of the system, so I'm not on our test version. Xero recently changed a bit of their flow, so unfortunately every time it's going to ask you now if you want to confirm. Before it used to take you right through. We just had to kind of adhere to what they asked us to do. But other than that, you press OK and you arrive at the wallet section. Before you do that, I'll just do a bit of a spiel on kind of how, what can you get and what you should do. So before you're actually allowed to do it, you actually have to choose a package. But most important thing is this is free for 30 days. So just come and have a go. When it comes to the integrations, just as a highlight, so if you're looking for application integrations into Xero or QuickBooks, you would choose anywhere between Starter or Pro. Starter is a is one that we've developed kind of based on feedback, because we knew that people wanted to just try getting something into Xero, but it doesn't have a lot of the automations. It doesn't have the live feeds or anything like that. Premium and Pro, that's where it really starts. But the exciting part is, you know, if you have a client with a lot of data, we do 5,000 to 10,000 transactions a month, but we can boost it for you too. There's no problem with that. And just not to get into too much detail, but the key essential questions. So the transactions, it's really where it focuses. And then what we do for everybody is the feeds. There are some journals not much used yet for tax. And we do offer you support. And as well, if you're coming in as a first-time client or an accounting practice, we can always come in and have a quick discussion with you. So I'll now just jump into the demo. That's just a sample of some wallets that we have there. This interface has changed quite a bit since we've done our workshop with Electra a long time ago. It's still the same functionality, but we're improving it. And that's what
between blockchain wallets and exchange wallets.
So blockchain wallets have a live integration, so you can choose to add a wallet, and there's about 70 individual tokens in that list. We are constantly expanding it more on feedback than anything else. So whenever you want a new token added, we do that. We actually plan to add more chains, but we have currently Ethereum, Bitcoin, Polygon. There's quite a few of the major ones in there. With some of the tokens listed, but there's no real barrier for us to do it. Exchange wallets, there's just a bulk group of, you know, about 10,000 currencies we support here. As this kind of relies on fetching the data is actually more fetching the exchange rates than the data, because the exchange wallets let you import information by yourself. So let's say I'm going to have this wallet, call it test. Let's just maybe label it.
That's where you would, the description, that's where you would paste the wallet address, is it?
Well, so for exchange wallet, that's a manual feed. So here I've just labeled it, and I've gone continue to import on my import page, and I can now go and select a CSV import of a file that, you know, I can download a template. I'll just download a template to show you, just to make it easy. And sorry, let's see what it's going to do. Okay, I hope you can still see my screen. Okay, great. So that's just a sample template. So that's effectively just feeding data from a spreadsheet. And if you got a lot of transactions that you have in a spreadsheet, you know, you will replicate the template and get this information in. I can actually do it, so I can just do it real quickly. It's always easier to see a demo.
It is. This can be a hard bit.
Yeah.
To make sure that the data you put in the template is exactly right for it to
exactly. And just because I'm worried of time, I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail, but what you need to do, just like, especially with us, because this is the difference between importing data as a feed versus, as a blockchain data package compared to a bank feed. In a bank feed, you generally have less information. In here, you have quite a bit more. As this is loading, I can show another wallet.
I think this is where most people would get stuck, and so like just taking note to spend a bit of time on this.
Exactly, and you would feed it in. And just because obviously when I do a demo, I'm doing some things that what that would have worked. Okay, load. Where am I? Okay. So that should have shown me, and that always happens at demo time. So I can't actually load up the data. But what ends up happening after you've imported the data in, you then see your transaction feed. So very much so like you would see it in the blockchain wallet, where in a blockchain wallet it just feeds itself from the chain, from the address.
Continuously in real time, right? Yeah,
in real time. In an exchange wallet, you just import it in manually.
So you'll need a process there to update it each month or something.
So whenever you get the data, or someone came to you at the end of the financial year, they gave you all the information, you can just use the exchange wallet. So it's a cheap and quick way of importing the data in. And then this is really what those wallets do for you. Other features that I kind of, just going back to our agenda here, what I wanted to showcase. So I just want a quick check on my screen. We do offer other integration elements. So for example, we have started developing the journals, which are still something that I'm really keen to get feedback from everyone on. Oh, sorry, that's actually a transaction feed, but there's also journals. So what happens with the feed? I've skipped right across to exporting my transaction data into Xero, and what we do offer is basically an integration where you're able to connect your Xero file, get your transaction data, and then just set up your feed. The key thing that needs to happen on the Xero side, you need to actually have, so this is a sample file that just has some random names on it, but let's say you created a wallet that will represent your Ethereum wallet. You need to then have that within Xero dedicated to those transactions.
So those accounts are mapped to Xero. So because
Yes.
you connected your Xero account here, and this is where best practice processes, knowing what to do is important. And so you're mapping them to specific accounts.
Yeah, and
Would you put them
sometimes
to suspense? Yeah, that was my question.
yeah, look, so this is exactly where I get into conversations with accountants, because they might start asking me about what I should do within Xero. So I generally stop on that part. I say, you have your account set up, you obviously have your tax codes, you may have your allocation. What I don't know is like how many transactions you already have from your client, what is the nature of those transactions. So I have in the past actually seen some people use suspense because they just wanted to get the data in.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is what you want to do, because you know, all your transactions might be actually especially with sales, you know, they could be physical sales. So if that client just sold a whole heap of NFTs, you would just call it sales. So it really just depends on the use case here.
And where is the other side of the journal going? The payment from the wallet in Xero?
So I can show you here real quickly. So if I go to manage, and these are my sample exports that we've done for our users. Let me just check what we've done. This were actually the invoicing exports. I actually want to show a bit better managed integration. I'm not after the invoicing yet, because I think this is more relevant. So let's say this is a BTC sample. When we export that data, you can still see the information where it's gone to.
Yeah.
You can actually check then within Xero. I might have already deleted that transaction, but it should still appear. And it will just tell you, okay, so we've actually recorded that transaction into this bank account, you know, with that exchange rate on it. And obviously this was here chosen as non-taxable. There was a network fee. So again, that's just a sample that I presented it.
This is good to look at for a minute. So it's coming in as a spend money from the Ethereum wallet, because you've set up the Ethereum wallet as a bank account.
Yeah, that's right. But this was just a test export here that we've done. But exactly, yeah, it's your transaction with your fee. I can't. I'm just gonna check. Look, this was a pure test. So obviously this is an Ethereum account. We may have used.
And this is just a quick run through too, but there are different approaches that Jakub and I were talking before about how the accountants he's been working with all have different approaches with how they do it. So there's no, you know,
there's no right or wrong, and exactly there's some things to highlight here. I'm gonna see if just trying to draw in Zoom, and it's always blocking me a little. But this feature here live, so that might be interesting to you, because if you're just getting a feed and you want to set up a live feed, you could use the blockchain wallet for it. And then with that live feed, you're actually able to just set an ongoing feed. So sometimes, you know, that sample of suspense might be more useful, because you would just choose an ongoing feed, but you would actually choose not to reconcile your transactions, because then, you know, you're getting the data in and you're going to reconcile it on the other end. In addition to that, however, the interesting thing we're doing with AEM, which should be coming through in the next few weeks, hopefully, but I always, you know, kind of promise, I can't say exactly when. We're trying to add more automated rules. So we're going to actually give you more categories to assign against wallets. So that will help you with the feeds. But in the meanwhile, like that's really where everyone's been at with using this solution.
Okay.
And in terms of other parts that I just wanted to quickly go over, check the time. I think we're moving into Q&A. So rather than go into too much detail, I'll just show very last thing here. And sorry, I can't delete the lines now. We have added something quite exciting for everyone. So we actually have now the ability to add multiple companies and invite users as well. So if you are an accounting practice, you can say, here's your DAO. You can choose to add that company, and they will be added to your list. And then once you add them to your list, you are actually able to add wallets and files and invite your client into it. So we finally made it.
So that's an important best practice question, is whether I create the file for my client or I send them a link to AEM Journaler and then tell them to create their own file and then link to me. What's the process with dealing with clients? If we say to a client, we think you should use AEM Journaler.
Look, I think at the end of the day, because it's not so hard to set up wallets, I would say I suggest you do it first for them. You get them to give you all your data, all the wallet addresses.
All the CSV exports and...
Exactly, and do the initial part. Get the data in, make sure it's there. And then perhaps before you commence getting the data into Xero, you ask them what you're doing and like to make sure you understand the nature of the transactions. What I would then encourage is that, for example, if you invited your client, then you would perhaps give them a view access and say, hey, I've added all those wallets. Is that enough, or is there something else we've been missing? So it's more just a safety check with the process. I don't think there's a need, but to put another example, your client may have created their own file and then they would be inviting you afterwards. So there's no wrong or right answer here. But if you're dealing with a lot of clients, I would imagine you'll be adding the files yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So establishing the file if the client doesn't have one, or if they're using something.
Yeah, it's quick. And back to kind of my sales pitch here. We actually offer partnerships with accounting practices, so there will be a saving to you by doing it this way, because we actually do offer discounts. Whereas if your client comes in for the pro package, you can actually offer them a saving. So it's it's another incentive for a client to stay with you, which we've seen with that's what Xero and QuickBooks would do, like trying to kind of incentivize accountants to provide a go-to solution.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, so perhaps we want to jump into some questions.
Yeah, look, I don't see any in the chat box. I think everyone's been pretty happy to have a look at what you've got to show us. Do we have any questions? So I'm just going back. Oh, we did have a question submitted in the booking form. Can you please cover how to account and report NFTs? So if a
good one.
Buying NFTs, how do we deal with that?
Look, they are digital goods. That's how I look at them. Again, not financial advice. So I'm not a tax agent here. But again, from what I've seen everyone do, there's been a sale has occurred. Obviously, those products would have a tax associated with it. We have goods and services tax. We have VAT in UK or other places. So it's relatively straightforward. But the interesting part is actually how you capture it within Xero, because you could do it two ways. So this is where actually our next kind of challenges are with AEM, because I'm already working in my brain all the time going, how can I make it better? We've been either doing a feed as a transaction feed, or we've been doing a straight raise of an invoice. So we actually let you raise an invoice automatically within Xero. Our automation is kind of simple, so we don't really give you this nice feature of writing up your invoice, putting all the things in there. But really what's occurring, in fact, is just you trying just to capture sales and put them correctly into the profit and loss. So it's relatively straightforward, I would say, as long as you can get the data in.
Okay.
Hope that answers the questions, unless there's more.
There's another question. Are the wallets in the balance sheet showing in AUD? So are there currency settings that in the setup process? What should we be mindful of?
Yes, they are. So I'll go into the details. Yeah, of course. And actually, that's a good one, because I can go into a bit more depth here. So Xero versus QuickBooks versus any other system. So in Xero, the way it works, we all have a default currency. So whenever you get Journaler, you will be actually asked to set up your currency. You will also need to set up your start of your financial year date. And then all your calendar is going to set to that. With Australia, we go July to June. When you export to Xero, I have had call it, another disaster kind of story, but it's really down to the constraints of the system. So Xero is used to receiving data in the same currency as it defaults to. So if your client's transacting with some transactions falling under USD, some transactions falling under AUD, and then you're trying to get that into a AUD file, it's just something that couldn't really be cracked. Like with QuickBooks, we've been able to crack it. We can actually send through data regardless of what currency you're using, but here you just want to have it consistently set up. So AUD going into AUD file, and then you won't be getting any sort of.
So if you're pulling data from the, so when you're importing data using the exchange wallets,
yeah,
you'll need to make sure that you've exported the data into the CSV in the right currency.
Well,
right?
we will always default it for you correctly. So as long as you've done the setup early on, you set your file into AUD, we can do it.
So if my CSV file has USD currency, it will convert when I import.
No, but actually this is something I'm working on for somebody. Yeah, so this is actually what we haven't done. But what you can do, I guess I'm giving you a workaround to the system that kind of works for now, because USDT is effectively US dollar. So if you are getting USDT transactions, they would get converted into AUD if you're importing. And then those USDT transactions get converted by us into AUD.
Yeah.
And then once they get converted into AUD, we then export it into Xero for you. If you were a US client, then obviously conversion would have just stayed within USD and would have just exported USD. I hope that makes sense.
Okay. Something to be mindful of. So tread carefully and take notes as you go along. Okay. Yeah. Does the system support people who are trading from one digital currency to another? So Bitcoin to ETH, and are there, so yeah, like some businesses might do some trading in their businesses.
So I will say no, but it's something that we're working on. And as an interesting example, we've actually been often used in parallel with other packages, where again, someone else might be offering for you a package that does crypto trading tax solution, and it just gives you this X value of what you've actually gained through your trades. We haven't tackled that problem. We're looking at two different ways of doing it, because we will either build it ourselves or we're trying to actually cross integrate with someone else. And I do think something will come about next year, because we do have the holistic approach, but we really focus more on the retail clients. And this is where perhaps people haven't seen the benefit of it unless they've really.
So they're using crypto in the ordinary course of their business rather than
exactly
an investment.
And it's been a use case quite a lot with our clients from overseas. So we do quite a bit with Southeast Asia, where they've really been more concerned with just getting the transactions in. So long answer again, but I just wanted to kind of expand on it.
We've got these two-pronged issues to deal with as accountants. We've got to get the accounting right and the tax right. So we just have to work out our own processes with the tools that we have for that. Okay, and linking to AUD values, is there any mechanism to monitor FIFO for CGT? Oh, that's a tax question, but
we do.
The tax side of this you're working out.
Look, so we've actually done, I'll go back into the demo quickly. Like, we've done something that's like very approachable to you. So it's just simple. So we do it per wallet, but even from the compact package that I'm showing here, what you can do then for any given wallet, you can actually go, what's my tax on this? What's kind of, and actually this is being updated. So this is now becoming a gain. And it's just a labeling thing. But what we're letting you to do is actually post your gain into Xero. And then just like you would have your currency gains within, from foreign exchange transactions, we are doing the same thing for you here for crypto transactions. Again, to tell you what this is missing, because I'm coming through here more as I'm not trying to sell you something, I'm trying to actually break down the process. The next thing we're actually looking to is more rules where you can exclude transactions. So we don't have the exclusions of transactions here. So this will operate under the assumption that all your transactions in the wallet you want it to, again, just report as taxable. But it's a great starting point, because there's no limitation of how many transactions you calculate this for. You could have 5 or you could have 1,000. We'll actually give you the gain information on this page.
I think
And
we'll do another session on the tax, hey, Jacob,
yeah.
when you're ready soon. So
Exactly.
that'll be a whole hour of its own, I think, a
Yeah.
tax session with
Yeah.
AEM.
But
Okay.
it's self-explanatory, I think. So yeah, I encourage everyone to just have a play with it if they want. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've talked about, you've covered so much, packed a lot into an hour, and I hope it's or 50 minutes. I hope it's been good for everyone to just get familiar with what they're looking at before they jump in and what they need to know about. We talked about quite a few war stories. Do you have any success stories to share with us?
Yeah, so the success has been really helping the larger practices that chose to focus on crypto, and they've done it a couple of years ago already. And a lot of them have had those manual processes in place, spreadsheet to spreadsheet, kind of manipulating the data, manually creating some sort of a feed to get it into Xero. And we've successfully stepped in and created an automation for them. So what that means in short, or as a success, they actually now able to service more clients and onboard more clients, because they know that accountant is not just doing data entry all the time. They actually have a bit of time to focus on other aspects. So that's
advising the development of the solution with you by the sound of it. So it's good for us, it's good for our clients to communicate with you, get involved. So just go, oh, I can't do this, and be quiet.
And another success story. I mean, I'm already in discussions, just asking, because I'm so busy building this, that we asking actually our partners to help us write up better tutorials for everyone. So it's almost like a bit of a little community here happening with the accountants that have been working with us, and it's a collective effort. So everyone understands that the solution improves, but it's definitely been a success in that sense, and we're just looking to do it for more people now.
Yep. Well, there's going to be a lot of demand for it. There already is, and there's not enough accountants who specialise in it. So good on you all for being here today and stepping up to get started. And you'll get an email from me soon with this recording and some resources from Jacob to keep you on this learning journey and actively. Thank you very much for today, Jacob. This has been great. And thank you everyone for joining us. I hope the rest of your day goes well, and we hear from you again.
Thanks, Electra. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice day.